What's on our mind today? Let's just start with some questions. How are we doing that? Is a microphone? Or yeah, somebody has a mic? There's your mic. Raise your hand. Give her 5 rupees and she'll give you the mic.
It's so good to see you here. My mom and I came to see you in Miami a couple months back. And today I'm curious about how did you get into the harmonium and why, and how long did it take you to feel confident to be able to play?
How many questions was that?
Technically 3, but I'm just rolling it into one.
Okay. When I started singing with people, I just played my little magic twanger. You know, you're too young, but you don't remember Andy's Gang. Anybody remember Andy's Gang? 3 of us. Yeah. Froggy with his magic twanger, you know. Anyway, so I had this instrument that just went bang, 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 bang. But it wasn't loud enough in the room, so I started playing harmonium. And thank God I took like 6 months of torturous piano lessons when I was 10. So that's the level of playing that I'm at. So to answer your first question, I didn't get into the harmonium. I couldn't play in anybody else's band. So, and what was the next question?
How long did it take you to feel confident to play?
Soon. If confidence was an issue, I'd just be watching TV. I'm too stupid to feel confident or not confident. It's not an issue. I just sing. If I thought I was doing something to you or for you, then I'd really have a problem. Then I really need to be confident. But since I'm just a broken radio that my guru turns on and turns off when he feels like it, there's nothing to either be confident or not confident about. Okay?
Thank you.
Don't give up your day job.
I'm the mom.
Hi, Mom.
The older mom that remembers Blue Oyster Cult.
Oh, really?
And I know that you were in the band before it evolved to that. And
Did you say evolved?
I don't know. Help me out here.
That's a confident statement.
What did you do in that band? Were you the vocalist?
Yeah, it was a bunch of guys from Stony Brook, New York, who probably somehow they ran into a friend of mine who was also at college with me at Stony Brook, who was a musician and an art major, and they started jamming together. They were just learning how to play their instruments, and they needed a singer, so he knew that I sang, so it got us together for a while. But they were too young and just getting into, and I was just getting out of, so it didn't work. And then a couple of years later, though, I was, where was I? Oh, I was on my way up to stay with Ram Dass for the summer. And in the meantime, I had met him. And I drove down from New Paltz, New York, all the way down to New York and then out to the end of Long Island for a Jimi Hendrix concert at my old school. And after the concert, the manager of the band, Sandy Pearlman, who actually later on brought The Clash to America and produced their first records, he came up to me and he said, "The guy who replaced you, can't sing in the studio. Would you come back, cut the vocal tracks? We have a whole tour made. Everything's ready to go." I went, nah. Because I had met Ram Dass. There was a whole other thing now. Nothing compared to that.
So what did you replace with?
Ram Ram. I got a crazy call from the bass player, the first bass player, who said, "Yeah, I heard about all this stuff. You never were in the band. You don't even." It was just really weird. People have their own, imagine that, their own subjective version of things. Who knew?
Now we have to.
Yeah, you do. Hey.
I know you've been in and out of spirituality. At times where you've been really plugged in, times where you've been plugged out.
Oh, yeah? It's funny, I don't see it that way.
They have a documentary about you.
Yeah, but that's bullshit. It's just a documentary.
Well, my question is this, and it's personal to me, and so that's why I'm asking it.
Yeah, okay.
When you had fame, the documentary mentioned that you kind of unplugged because you got a little bit lost in the fame, is the way that they put it, and then you went back to India.
No.
Okay.
All right, go ahead, finish your question.
My question was
Then I'll
simple.
kill you.
It's great.
Yeah.
My question is simple: is
Yeah.
how do you stay continuously plugged into spirituality now that you're at the maturity of your practice?
He's saying I'm an old fuck, right? That's what he's saying. Thanks, kid. It wasn't fame that bothered me when I started singing. It was the fact that I saw that I couldn't do it right. My own stuff, my own desires I was a hungry guy. And there was no possibility of me not using all that energy and love that was coming towards me to satisfy those desires. And I saw very clearly that not only would I hurt myself, but I would be hurting other people. And that's not why I started this. I started this because I had after many years after Maharaji died, left the body, I had an experience in my room in New York where I understood if I did not chant with people, I would never be able to clean out the dark shadows in my own heart. So that's why I started, and that's why I continue. But I saw, after about 6 months, because I saw what was going to happen, it was already happening, I saw I wasn't qualified for this. And it was really painful because what do you do when you're being prevented from doing the only thing that can save your ass? By yourself, by you. It's me that was the problem. How do you fix that? You don't. So I started talking to Maharaji. First of all, I stopped singing and I went to India. And I said, you got to fix this. This is your problem. I'm singing to people in your name. This is your problem. Fix it or I don't sing. You got it? Good night. I wake up in the morning, nothing, the same shit. And after a few months of that, it was torture. It was so much desolation. I was being prevented from doing the only thing that could save me, the only thing that could reconnect me. And I couldn't do anything about it. It was really terrible. It's kind of a long story, but I won't tell the whole thing. I think it's in the movie. When you like the documentaries, watch it again. But I was staying in the temple in India, the temple where I used to live with Maharaji. And every day I'd go out to the back. In the old days when I was there with him, it was just like one light bulb in the courtyard in front. We had lamps and candles in the back. But now there's lights everywhere, right? So I found a little corner where there was like, it was in the shadows and you could see the stars in the sky. And I go find that corner and I start talking to him again. I said, what's the deal? You know, I'm leaving in 3 days. You haven't done anything. Get it together. Good night. Nothing, right? Nothing. So on the night before the big celebration, the day before I was going to leave, I went out there and I said, what's the deal? You could do this. I don't understand. Why aren't you not doing this? All right, well, I can't make you do it if you don't want to. Okay, I'll go back. I'll sing. How bad could it be? Good night. That is what in New York we call surrender. I stopped demanding that the universe pay attention to me and do what I wanted it to do. And I agreed to fight through it. Just like Arjuna agreed to fight. It was his duty. That's what he had to do. And on the next day, my whole life changed. Because I had surrendered. And that allowed a whole other thing to happen. And surrender is actually just recognition. We think we're running the show. We think we're controlling our lives. We even think we're making decisions. But surrender means dealing with things as they are and not demanding that the world change to please you. It's a really big thing. And it's the fruit of the intense longing for grace, or the intense longing to be living in that love all the time. And that longing is grace itself already working. So it's a blessing to have that longing, because most people don't have it. Or they only have enough to seek pleasure and try to avoid pain. That's the longing that most people have, most of us have. But some of us are just born totally fucked up and only want love. Or at least we want that more than other things, some part of the time. Between the hours of 3 and 5 on alternate Tuesdays, every 6 years. But that's enough. So, what was your question?
I guess when you came back and after the surrender, how did you sustain that today?
I have no idea. I don't think about it. I remember, when I remember, I'm back already. When I forget, I'm not. But I don't beat myself up much these days, between the hours of 3 and 5 on alternates. You do the best you can. What else could you do? You do the best you can. You try to pay some attention to yourself, your stuff, and try to let go of some of the negative aspects of our emotional body. And if we could treat other people the way we would like to be treated, we'd have no problems. But, you know, that's not easy. It's not easy. But it's all that's required, by the way. Treat other people, every other person that you meet, everyone who comes in front of your face or yells at you from behind. Treat them the way you want to be treated. Try it. And then you'll see why you need to do practice. Because you can't do it. There's too many programs running. There's too much stuff going on in there. We're not free. We can't make those decisions to treat people well. We might faintly want to do that. We might barely understand that that might be a good thing, but don't fucking get in my way, buddy. Don't cut me off on the highway, you know? don't give me anything I don't want. So it's not easy. That's why practice is so important. Every day, a few minutes of remembering you're barely alive is a big thing. It's a really big thing, because mostly we're born, graduate high school, drink some beer and die, and that's it. And that's what most of the world does. So just being here, being a part of this, being aware that there's something else going on that might be a good thing. It's very, very rare. And it's very, very blessed. And it's actually already the evidence of grace. Already we have it. Otherwise we wouldn't be interested in this.
Maybe I'll talk while I have it. Hi,
Hey.
my name's Vicky, and I was thinking of something. You've probably heard a version of this story millions of times, but I just have to say it again because I've never heard it. First, I'm happy to see you in the flesh instead of on YouTube, which is where I usually see you.
I'm only real on YouTube. This is a projection.
Right, so I'm a local New Yorker, Jamaica, Queens, and
179th Street, Jamaica.
179th Street,
Right
3
on.
blocks from my parents' house, yes.
Okay.
So you know what I'm going to say next. We grew up hearing and seeing the Hare Krishnas on the train, in the airport, everywhere. And when we were, kids 50 years ago, more than that, we used to either call them the Hare Krishnas or the loonies, because they would hop around in the subway station, and we took the subways everywhere. But if you told me back then that 50 plus years later I would be here singing Hare Krishna con mucho gusto, I would tell you, you don't know me. And so I just thought that you might have heard some stories similar to that and be interested or tickled by it. I think my friend Moksha is, because she's smiling. So that's my only comment. But I also have a question. I have watched a bunch of your videos, and on the CDs, you have one song that pops up a lot, but I've never seen you perform it. And I wonder if maybe I can talk you in or make a suggestion. And I actually had to, I don't know if I could say it.
If you can't say it, I can't do it. 5, 4, 3, 2. Oh, too late.
No, Maha. Here, I even wrote it down to make sure I could say it. Hara Hara Mahadeva Shambho.
Okay.
That one.
Yeah, we.
Never seen. It's on your CDs.
I just sung it the other day somewhere.
Did you?
Where was that?
Well, anyway.
I don't remember. Anyway, good. Yeah. Yeah. You have a time limit, though.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I had to make myself some notes this time because I wanted to keep it as short as possible.
Good.
Excuse me just a second here.
I had no idea you developed so much compassion.
Yeah, yeah, and talking about your age and my age, and I know you have a birthday coming up, so happy premature birthday.
It wasn't premature. It was 9 months, basically.
But, I'm a year and a half older than you are.
I'm glad somebody is.
Yeah, not many people are. I'm always the oldest person in the room.
Uh-huh.
But I say that because, leading edge, in fact, even pre-baby boomer. But, age of Aquarius, blah, 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 really believing that we were headed in that direction. And now suddenly I find myself looking at the end of the road of my life. I'm healthy, I'm good, but, maybe I have 12, 15 years left. Maybe, if I don't get too crazy.
You want to be 150?
Yeah. Are you that old? But the point is that the song that keeps going through my head, that some people may know about, which is Bilbo Baggins sitting, waiting by the fire for all the folks to come back from Lord of the Rings. Has a little song, one verse of which goes, I sit beside the fire and think of how the world will be when winter comes without a spring that I shall ever see. And that's how I feel. And that's playing in my mind a lot. And I think of that a lot, and I think of what I will be leaving my grandsons, who are now 17 and 18, without having found in my own life and heart a place to stand that's really peace. You know, in all these years I've been doing meditation and chanting practices, trying to do them, I should say. That's the operative word. I wasn't ever thinking I would get to be like where you are, even, you know.
No, where you think I am. That's a whole other thing.
But I have an impression of where you are, and you have a lot more discipline than I do, so I think.
Well, you think I do.
Well, hey, yeah, you know you do.
You think I know you do.
But the thing is, Katie, I guess maybe I just don't have the discipline.
You think you don't have the discipline.
But
You think you don't have the discipline. It's called judgmental mind.
I go
And that's called a thought. And what you do with thoughts is you let it go and you come back to your breath.
Yeah, I know that, and that's what I keep
You
trying.
think you know that.
I keep trying to do it.
No, you think you're trying to do it, but you're actually doing it. But then your mind says, oh, you didn't do it well enough.
But see, but then why aren't I in this place of peace that I've been trying to get to?
Where is it? It's inside of you.
Yeah,
and
but it
it's always there. Yeah, it is, but you don't see it because you won't let yourself see it. You're trying to figure things out, and you never can.
My point is, I don't want to die still feeling like this.
Tough shit. What are the choices? Don't die then, okay?
Yeah, well, my aunt almost didn't die, but she was pretty crazy by the time she got that.
But, yeah, well, that's good.
Yeah, but you know, I think about it a lot now, and this is the first
There you
time.
go.
Oh, think.
Yeah.
Think.
Yeah. Yeah. Thoughts just
You
come
always
and
tell me
go.
the same thing.
Well, yeah, and that's because you never do it. What the fuck you want me to do? Why don't you listen to it for once?
But I try to do it.
Yeah. You try to do it.
Yes.
No, you actually do it, but then you put yourself down for not getting the experience you think you want. You think you want. Rather than just sit and be stupid for as long as you possibly can.
Well, that's
A thought
hard.
comes, you get caught thinking, oh, I'm thinking. You need a very sharp knife, so I'm going to give you a very sharp knife that'll cut through all this nonsense. You sit down, and for 5 minutes, you put a timer.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you're thinking, feeling, or whatever, imagining, you label it thinking. And then you come back to your breath. And then you notice you've been gone thinking. Not, what was I thinking? Why was I thinking that? I'm so stupid, I can't believe I'm still thinking like that. I can't do this or that. Thinking, and come back. That's all you have to do. Label it, come back. Label it, come back. Just do it for 5 minutes a day. And then by the time you take your last breath, you'll be there.
Yeah.
You'll say, thinking, I'm back. Whoops, I'm gone.
Thank you for reiterating what you've told me a million times.
Yeah, but, okay, so maybe now is the time to do something and stop judging yourself and stop believing everything you think.
What? Swami Karunananda gave me a non-negotiable task last time I was here last year.
That was nice of her.
But yes, it was very nice of her because it actually worked. 5
Is she
minutes.
here? Where is she? Is she around these days?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think she's here. But she gave 5 minutes to just sit and watch thoughts go by.
Yeah, but the problem with you is that as soon as you're thinking, you're completely immersed in it. And one thought leads to another thought to another thought. As soon as you notice you're thinking, just say, thinking. Not even I'm thinking, because that's another thought. Thinking, and come back. It's a training. You have to train yourself to do that. It won't be easy. You have to start. If you don't start now, what are you going to do after you're dead?
Yeah, well, after 45 years of trying, one would think I would have gotten it by now. Right?
45 years and 45 million lifetimes is not a long time.
All right.
No, not all right. Start training yourself seriously. Thinking, come back. Thinking. That's all. Anything that you're aware of is a thought. Even if it's a feeling, it's a thinking. Thinking and come back. I'll never be able to do this. This is such bullshit. That Krishna doesn't know what the fuck he's talking. Oh, thinking. That's all you have to do. Thinking and come back. And nothing else for 5 minutes. The rest of the day, just be stupid. Don't even try. Unless you remember while you're washing dishes. Oh, thinking. And just go back to the washing. It'll start pulling you back little by little. When you're not looking, it'll pull you back. If you don't do it, don't do it. It's okay. The moment of death will be a surprise, no matter what you do. There's this great book called Peaceful Life, Joyous Rebirth by a wonderful Lama that I knew I didn't know him very well, but I knew him, a really beautiful being. He just left the body a year or two ago. Peaceful, is that what it's called? Who knows? Somebody's here. Oh, my team is asleep. Okay, I think it's Peaceful Life, Joyous Rebirth. It's on Amazon. I want a book report.
I'll have to think about that.
Yeah. Then you're already dead.
I couldn't resist, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I think that's what it's called, by Tulku Tundup, T-H-O-N-D-U-P. I'll write it down for you later or something, yeah.
All right, great.
It's a beautiful book. And it's about what they call, in Tibet, they have these people they call Delog, D-E-L-O-G. These are people who die. They really die. And they're dead, sometimes for 3 days or more. And then they come back to life. And what happens is they go and they come before the Lord of Death and his attendants. And he goes, you know, you're not supposed to be here yet. But since you're here, take a look around, see how everything works, and when you go back, tell people what's going on. And that's what happens. And the Lama says this is the same in every tradition. It's just he's talking about the way the Tibetans see it. It's amazing. It's really amazing. It really blew my mind. You know what blew my mind about? And I hate to tell you this. Maybe I won't. Okay, I'll tell you. Nah. Okay. You ready? There are no secrets. Everything is known. Every thought, every action, every fantasy, everything you've ever done or thought about doing is written. But there's no judgment. It's simply a scale with black beads and white beads. The black beads are negative actions, the white beads are positive actions. And when you go before the Lord of Death, or the final reckoning, or the angel at wherever the gates, whatever the hell they call it, whichever way the scale tips is the direction you go. They don't say you're bad, you go that way. It's just that, nothing more. And there's nothing. It's all up to us every moment. What do we do? How do we live? How do we treat ourselves? How do we treat other people? Right now, we're putting beads on that scale. What are we doing? And you think, judging yourself harshly, that might be a negative bead. You don't think, oh, I'm so fucked up, I'm so really bad, I'm just a bad person. Maybe you're not, but maybe that's hurting yourself, so that's a negative bead. And maybe that self-hatred makes you treat other people badly, and that's more negative beads. Right now, how do we go through the day? That's what's important, right now. Not later, not before, now. Thinking, come back. That's all you have to do. That scared the shit out of me, that book, I'll tell you. I went, oh my God, really? That's how Ram Dass felt when he first met Maharaji, and Maharaji told him everything, about himself. He went, oh my God, if he knows that, But they know, everyone knows, it's all written, but it's not judging. There's no judging. It's just simply mechanical. It's not judging the way we feel judged and the way we judge ourselves. That's a whole other thing. That's an emotional program that was put into us by our particular karmic situation. And there's no guilt because of that. We're not guilty automatically. We're guilty because we carry on unconsciously and create more negative karmas for ourselves and other people. That's the negativity. So really, how many people have you murdered? You're really not that bad. Okay, 10 people, all right. You got some work to do. But most of us haven't killed anybody except a few insects, which is not nothing, by the way. So, yeah, we just believe everything we think all life long. Crazy. That's insanity. Because the thoughts, they just come in. They're karmically created, like a big storm on the ocean. And from that storm, waves start coming. By the time they get to the shore, the storm is over. Whatever created those karmas is already in another body. And they're just showing up now. But we react to them completely automatically. And that creates more tension and fear and anxiety and more self-hatred. Yeah?
Where then, because of what's going on not only in my life but in the world in general right now, where's Hanuman? I mean, where is the God of love? Where is love? Where is the God of love right now?
That's called thinking. Come back to your breath.
How can you?
There's no answer for that question. Don't you get it?
No, I don't.
You're right. Thinking. Come back to your breath.
That's not fair.
That's thinking. Come back to your breath. Only you can do it, and if you don't do it, it won't happen. And you'll what's the word? You'll kvetch yourself to death all the way to the last breath. If that's what you want to do, fine, do it. If not, then get off your fucking ass and do something real with yourself. Thinking.
So one of these days I'll tell you what's really going on in the rest of my life, but it's...
Whatever it is, your judgments about it, your ideas about it, what you think it is, there's only one version of it. Who those people are, who are doing those things, who are feeling those things, have nothing to do with you. That's their karma. That's their lives. And you're here and you're seeing it, but because you think you are who you think you're obliged to have reactions to it and judgments about it, whether it's positive or negative. Why? You don't have enough to do? Thinking. Come back. That's all you have to do in life. And then just be who you are. Be stupid, be happy, be upset, be depressed, be nasty, be loving. Doesn't matter. Thinking. Come back. If you don't do it, it won't happen. Only you can do it. Get over your need to try to understand everything, which, in the Rig Veda, there's a hymn called the Creation Hymn. And it starts up, in the beginning, hi. In the beginning, there was this, and this, and this, and this, and this happened, and that happened, and then this happened. And then it says, and why and how did all this happen? Only He in highest heaven knows. Or maybe He doesn't. It says that. So what the fuck are we going to do? In our little lives, in our little houses, with our big TV screens. What are we going to do? Thinking? Come back. That's what we're going to do. Or we're going to suffer. Those are the two options.
Okay.
There's no other option. Period. No other option. Thinking and come back or suffer. That's it.
I will report to you next year then. Maybe I'll see you before then.
Maybe, but I'll give you that book to read.
Okay. That'd be great. Yeah, I like the title. Thank you.
Jai Gurudev, thank you so much for letting me find you again last year after 25 years.
Terrific. I'm glad I didn't do that.
Yeah, no, I did. I found you.
You did that, I see.
Yeah. So, 2 questions. Last night you opened with a prayer, and following up on the request for Kashi Vidwanatha Gange, you start that with a prayer, which is actually a shortened version of something else I've seen you do on a podcast.
Oh, that. I didn't sing that last night.
No. You
Yeah.
sang something else last night.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the 2 questions.
Okay.
Can you talk about both of them, please?
The thing I sang last night is called the Hanumat Stoan. It's a prayer to Hanuman. And the thing you're talking about is the beginning of something called the Rudra Ashtak, the Shiva Stuti,
Shiva Stuti.
from the Ramcharitmanas, Tulsidasa's Ramayana.
So if you sing Kashi Vishwanatha Gange, will you start with that?
Maybe.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
I'm not coming.
Thank you so much for just being you and for letting us be us.
Thank you. I failed at being anybody else, so I'm left with this. That's a beautiful prayer. It's called the Shiva Stuti, and it's an incredibly amazing story. But what happens is there's a crow who lives under a tree at the center of the universe, and he is a fully enlightened being, and he's constantly sharing the story of Ram with all the other birds who come from different places. Beings in the form of birds, and they come, and he's constantly reciting the story of Ram. So King of Birds Garuda goes to Shiva once and says, what's the deal? What is this Ram guy you're always talking about? So Shiva sends Garuda to this crow, and the crow's name is Kakabusundi. And so Garuda sits there and he gets the transmission of the Ramayana and everything, and after it's over, he goes up to Kakabusundi and says, like, how did this happen? How did you become like this? You're a crow. How could you be like fully enlightened? He said, I was once a devotee of Shiva, and I lived with my guru in a Shiva monastery, an ashram for Shiva. And one day I was sitting in the temple, and my guru walked in, and I pretended I didn't know that he walked in, and I kept pretending to meditate, and I didn't get up and honor my guru. So Shiva comes out of the lingam, and he curses me. He says, you're going to be a crow for millions of lifetimes, and he said, but my guru was so kind-hearted that he pleaded with Shiva to take the vow back, the curse back. And what he did was he sang this prayer to Shiva, and that's that prayer, the Shiva Stuti. So at the end, Shiva says, well, okay, I can't take it back, but I can change it. Yes, you will be a crow, but you'll also be fully enlightened, and you will be witness to the Leelas of Ram in every different world and every different universe at the same time. Because Ram, Vishnu, Krishna, Ram, he takes a form as a human being in this world. That's because that's what we are. But in other worlds, he takes a different form as they are there, in all the universes. So, yeah, it's a beautiful prayer, really nice. And it worked for that guy, so. Yeah, somebody, yeah.
Ramana Maharshi, and probably others will say, or in the readings, that God, Guru, and Self are one.
Mm-hmm.
And also grace, japa, frequently those things are tied in as one. And I want to specifically ask you about the Guru part of that. Mm-hmm. If Guru and Self are one, then only a fully realized being that's manifest in a human form can be a true guru.
Only say that again.
So if God, guru, and self are one,
Mm-hmm.
then only a fully realized being who is manifest in a human form can be a true guru for those of us who are not
Yeah.
enlightened.
I would say that's a true statement.
So in
But
practicing,
one thing, let me just ask you, how do you define self in that phrase?
I don't think there are words to define self, right? So self is the heart space, is love, is being here now, you know, that.
But self, God, and guru are one. So any definition of one of those three should be the same.
If you know one, you know them all.
If you know one, you are them all.
You are them all. But
Yeah.
if you do not know them,
And they're
Then
not,
you're-
it's not a small s self, ego, the sense of me.
big.
Capital S self,
Yes.
the I-ness, the feeling of being, of presence, of awareness, consciousness. That's self, capital S. And that's what guru is, and that's what God is. Consciousness, pure being, pure awareness.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so if the guru is within, and that is the self,
Wait a second. Define within.
well, if I could do all that, I wouldn't be asking these questions.
Wait a minute. I'm trying
I'd
to
be
get
on
you
the
to let
stage.
me off the hook. That's what I'm going
I tell you to move over and let me sit on the stage.
Okay, come on. Okay, so you say within, but that's a funny statement because when you say within, you mean like in here.
No,
Well,
because we're not the body. So if
We're not?
we're not the body,
Who's talking?
the teachings in my following will say you're not the body, but look to the heart space, and
Yeah.
they'll say that's in the right side of the chest and all that. So
Yeah.
I think it depends where you are, and
Mhm.
you're mixing things up. I am mixing things up.
Oh, it's okay.
So
We're in
the-
this together.
The question that so in my practice, and in some of the teachings, they'll say, well, you need a guru. You need a guru in the human form. How do you find, and then they'll say, when the student's ready, the guru will appear. And I hate to put this on you, but you're the closest thing I've been around that I might say, that guy might be a guru. But
That's what we call delusion.
yes. And after practicing with you a few times, I get it.
Good.
Not in a negative
Yeah,
way.
great. Oh, no, it's okay.
No, that sounded terrible. That came out wrong.
So truth often reveals itself that way, by accident.
I didn't mean it.
Go ahead, it's okay.
I just mean instead of, so when I first started practicing with you, I put things on you because I wanted you to do the work for me. And then when I was practicing with you more, I realized that you cannot do that for me. Even if you are enlightened, I have to do the work myself. So that's just to clarify
yeah,
what I
okay.
was saying. But so I guess that as we're all here, and if we're looking or hoping to find a guru, it just has to happen? Or should we make a pilgrimage
Okay.
somewhere?
Let's start with self, okay? Capital S self. We can think of it as the sense of being, right? Just being. You're here, right? Of course, we don't really know we're here. We don't really experience it deeply because of the flow of obsessive thinking and the way we're glued to all those thoughts. We don't feel the space between the thoughts. We don't feel the space, the openness in us. But it's here. We're here. So if we're here, God and Guru must also be here. Right? But we're not aware of that. We don't see it because let's say that God, Guru, and Self are the sky, the space of the sky, right? Because of the clouds, we can't see the blue. We don't see the space. It's all. The clouds is our stuff, our beliefs, our delusions, all the stuff, all emotional stuff, all the stuff, all the things, that's the clouds. And as long as we're glued to that, it blocks the space in which all that stuff is, because we're locked into that. But the space is always here. And not only is it always here, but there's nothing outside of that. We can't get outside of here. You're here now. Next week, if you ask yourself where you are, it'll be here. It won't be there. Now, then is there, but now is here. So on that superficial level, it's very easy to see. You're always here. Where am I? Here. So with Ramana Maharshi, so he says, first of all, it was his main teaching, but not his only teaching. A lot of times people, Guruji, I can't do that stuff. He said, oh, okay, just repeat my name. So just recognize that he felt that jnana yoga, that kind of self-inquiry, was only for beings who were really, very ripe, which pretty much excludes me and maybe some of you. But the idea of, think about it, so you're thinking something, right? And you ask yourself, well, okay, thinking. Who's thinking? Well, I'm thinking, right? I'm thinking. Well, who am I? Well, what do you mean, who am I? I'm me. Who's thinking that? You're always coming back behind the thought into this sense of being, into this space that has no thought, well, who am I? Well, I'm me. That's a thought. Well, who's thinking that? Well, I'm thinking that. Well, who am I? And there's like a space. That space is the same as this space. And that's Guru, God, and Self. It's nowhere else but here. And it has ultimately certain qualities that they call clarity, luminosity, spaciousness, openness. But there's no me in it, because me is just thoughts. Me is just thoughts. There's nothing else but thoughts. I'm like this, I'm tall, I'm short, I'm fat, I'm happy, I'm unhappy. But that's all me. But it's only thoughts and nothing else. Thoughts, emotions, etc., etc. If we ask ourselves, well, who's feeling that? Well, I'm feeling that. Who's depressed? I'm depressed. Oh, well, who am I? Or what is this awareness of that? Well, there's nothing to say. It's always behind the thought. But that's a difficult practice to do because our minds are so fast and so full of stuff, which is why japa, repetition of the name, is such a wonderful, easy practice to do, which is also very, very powerful. And Ramana Maharshi told many people, just do the japa. And he said many times, one of the things he said is, what a bhakta, someone who's doing these devotional practices, what a bhakta experiences on the way to enlightenment, a jnani, somebody who does this cutting through practice, experiences after enlightenment, is the same. So, ask yourself, who asked that? What a devotee, a bhakta, experiences on the way to enlightenment, the bliss, the love, all this, a jnani experiences after enlightenment. Same thing. So, but ultimately it just comes back to coming home again and again. When you're doing japa, when you're repeating the name, you're paying some attention, which means you're not completely gone in your thoughts once in a while. Like in 2 hours of chanting, we might be there for a minute, actually, because we're just gone. It's more powerful than standing at the edge of the ocean being crushed by the waves. You can't stand up when those big waves come. You can't even fight again. You just have to give up and you're gone. And it's like that. The flow of thoughts and emotions and all that shit is so powerful, and it's been pulling us out of ourselves for millions of lifetimes. To think that you're going to sit down and meditate and feel good, forget it. You shouldn't even try. Just try to be with what is. So, now the one thing about a guru in a physical body is that the guru doesn't think they're the body. They don't identify with being in a body. But they do show up that way sometimes. And it's not a question of when the disciple is ready. It's just a question of it's grace, really. And most people, like you said, want a guru because they think the guru is going to do it for them. And the guru is not going to do it for them. First of all, from the guru's point of view, there's nothing to do. It's only our point of view there's a lot to do. One time, Maharaj used to tease us. We'd be sitting in front of him, the Westerners, and he'd say, I have the keys to the mind. I could turn your minds against me. I could transfer you. We said, Baba, don't do that, don't do that. And he'd laugh, He said, transfer ho jayega. I'll transfer you, right? So, but he actually did, as it turned out. When our time was up, boom, transferred back to America. You got the hit, now go. So one day I said to Siddhi Ma, who is his great disciple, I said, Ma, Maharaj said he has the keys to the mind. So, to me, that means that I am where he puts me. Like, here with you, Jesus. But whatever. So I'm where he's put me. So is my effort required? Or is it all his doing? Is it all his grace, right? She said, Krishna Das, it's all grace. But you have to act like it isn't. Fuck.
But why do you have to act like it isn't?
Because you don't know. You don't know. You don't know you are God. You don't know you are Guru. You don't know you are self, even though you are. You're not aware of it. So we have to do what's required to train our minds to let go so we can recognize our true nature. You can't think yourself out of a prison made of thought. Every thought is a prison. Stuck. So you can't think, well, I'm not thinking now. Right?
So that's where
Right?
we just keep coming back to the sound.
Come back to the sound or to the breath or to whatever your object of awareness is. It doesn't matter. I was with Maharaji in an apartment building in Mumbai at Christmas time in 1972. I've been in India for 2.5 years. He kept me there, got my visa extended and everything. And then one day he looks at me and said, America jao, go back to America. Ah. I said, Baba, I'm just learning Hindi. Too bad, jao, you have to go. He said, you have, what did he say? He said, you have attachment there, you have to go. I thought, what is he talking about? When I left America, I was never going back. I gave everything away. I sold my car, my guitar, I gave my jeans away. I maybe had a small box of books in my mother's basement, but I had no intention of ever coming back. Now I know what he's talking about. Everything that's happened to me, every moment of my life, since that moment to this moment, is what he was talking about. This is all my stuff unfolding into the world. Ugh. What a fucking horror show. Not you. So, yeah. A really funny thing happened. So, in November 1970, I was in Bodh Gaya. And we heard that there was this incredible old Lama staying at the Tibetan temple. And so me and 3 other guys, we went to see him. He's this little old Lama, with no teeth, just sitting there in this room. You know, it turns out he was one of the highest Lamas in the universe, right? But he's so simple, so humble. So he tried to give us mantra, but he goes, none of us could figure out what he was saying. So he said it again. We couldn't figure out what mantra it was, you know. We kind of figured it out finally. So then, as we're leaving, he reaches into his little coat and he pulls out this little leather pouch, right? And he opens it up and he takes these seeds from the Bodhi tree. You know, Bodh Gaya is the village where the tree that Buddha sat under when he woke up, when he became enlightened. It was right there. So he takes out the seed and he gives us each one a seed. And I went to put it away, to put it on my altar, and he goes, so I had to eat it. I almost broke my tooth. I mean, it was the hardest thing I've ever eaten in my life. Oh, so that's November 1970. And then we did like 10 meditation courses in a row, 10-day courses in a row with Manindra and Mr. Goenka. And then we got on the bus, you know the story, the bus, and we found Maharaji in Allahabad. He found us in Allahabad. And then 2 years go by, and I'm in this hotel, this Parsi apartment building in Mumbai. And Maharaji's lying on the bed, I'm sitting on the floor doing my spiritual practice, which was, you know. And he's sitting, he's lying down, he's sleeping, he's getting up, he's turning this way. All of a sudden he sits up and he says, "Give me the seed the Lama gave you." I said, "What?" I didn't remember. What seed? What Lama? I'd met like 20 Lamas or 100 Lamas since that time. What seed? What seed? Give me the seed, give me the seed, give me the seed. I said, oh, that. Baba, he made me eat it. Ah, theek hai, ab to mukti ho jayega. He said, great, now you'll be enlightened. And he went back to sleep. Kya time hai? When? So, things like that, you know. Next victim.
How did you know your guru was your guru? And did you have any premonitions prior to meeting him?
When you look in the mirror, do you doubt what you see? Yes or no?
I don't know.
Yeah, come on.
My eyes could be lying to me sometimes.
Look in the mirror. They could be, but do you look in the mirror? What do you think you're seeing a rabbit? Or maybe a dinosaur? No, you're seeing you, right? You know it's you. You may not like what you see, but that's a whole other thing. That's like that, you know. I don't know if you've ever fallen in love, and they use the word fallen for a good reason. You don't like think about it. You just fall. You know. There's some things you know, some things you don't know. When you meet your guru, you know. Your guru makes you know. It's their show. We're just, well, I don't even know where we are, but it's their show. When guru wants to be known, they make you known, make themselves known. And it can happen inside. It doesn't have to be a guru in a body. That's the joke of it all. That's just our storyline, because we identify with our bodies. We think a guru has to be in a body, but it's not that case. It's not that way at all. We can be touched by grace, by love at any moment, any time, anywhere, without any other body being present. In fact, without our own bodies being present. But that's a little different. Okay? You just know. And you don't doubt it either.
My question is, I was having lunch with a grown man in a white shirt today, and he said that he cries when he hears you singing.
You believe everything everybody says?
Well, that happened to me all the time, particularly in the beginning when you sing and you become or channel, Maharaji. I don't know. So maybe you can shed some light why some of us cry. It's not just me or the grown man in a white shirt. So can you tell us, like...
Was the white shirt plaid?
So anyway, and then a little bit about it's been 25 years that I have followed you and loved you, and I don't cry as much, but when I see Maharaji's photo, that makes me cry still. So spiritual maturation, or why we cry. Like you are like a regular guy now, but when you're singing, you are a different person.
If you let people talk long enough, you should have quit when you were ahead. What else can you do when the presence of love touches you? There's only one. You can only cry. There's no other option. So I'm glad that happens for you, and I'm glad it happens for anybody. You know, one time I was in a delicatessen in this little town in upstate New York. This is before I became a vegan. Don't kill me, all you vegans. So I ordered a cheese sandwich, right? And I'm waiting in line to pay. And there's a guy standing in front of me in line. I just got this strange feeling from the guy, right? So I kind of went around his left shoulder to try to see him. You see his face, right? And he turned like that. And I thought, that didn't happen. So I went around, I'm behind him in line, his back fully to me, and I kind of go around this way like this. And he turned away. I said, fuck, that didn't happen. And then he paid or something, and as he walked away from the cashier, he turned to me and he goes, it's not in the eyes, you know. And he left the deli. And I'm waiting for my change. And, like 35 cents. But for 35 cents, I ran out there, and it was an empty street. He disappeared in thin air. Upstate New York. Who knew? The center of the universe. Things happen, Things happen. He looked me right in and I said, it's not in the eyes, you know.
What was he talking about?
I have no fucking idea. That's why I was running after him. No, I mean, he knew whatever he knew. I was trying to see him, see who he was, see what was, and I was trying to see his face. I was trying to look at him and see what's going on there. And he kind of turned away from me. And then he turned this way. And then he turns to me and said, it's not in the eyes, because I was trying to see him. And then he split, and I went,
That's a double entendre.
huh?
That's a double entendre.
At the least, it's like a quadruple entendre. There's 2 eyes times 2. That's 4 times.
And his 2 eyes.
Yeah.
It's not through his 2 eyes.
Yeah.
Looking for his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Hi. Hi, Katie.
Hi.
Thank you for being here. My question is about the track or the recording of My God is Real. And I was probably my first exposure to you, and I don't know, 12 years ago or something, and was shocking at the time of the potency of, that came through that song, and just it's always been incredible to listen to. So I was curious about your choice to record that hymn, and it's a little bit different than some of the other call and response style songs. So just curious if you had any stories around recording that, the choice to record it, and say thank you for it.
Well, I grew up with that song. My father had an album of Mahalia Jackson, and we were always playing it at house, so I always loved that song. I just wanted to sing it. I sing what I like to sing. I don't know why any of you are here. You must like to sing what I like to sing. So we sing. If I tried to sing what you might like to sing, you wouldn't be here. Because you wouldn't like what I thought you liked to sing. So I sing what I like to sing. And look what happened. How crazy is that? All these pictures on the wall, huh? Somebody, where's the mic? I can yell. Okay, we'll get over there. Hold on. I can yell too.
So I really like your instruction set about meditation. Of course, I've heard it before. I'm an engineer, so it's really cool because it's a simple idea, and you can tell when you're thinking or not thinking. You can kind of...
That's why it's so... Yeah. It cuts through really fiercely.
And then you're a really powerful bhakti, and it can even make guys in white shirts cry.
Uh-huh. Are you the guy in the white shirt who was talking to her? Oh, okay.
So that's a powerful idea. Can you give a simple instruction set how one would incorporate that in yoga, in a meditation practice?
Which what?
The power of bhakti and devotion, and that's a bigger. That seems to me a bigger idea.
It is meditation. Anything that brings you back from New Land is meditation. There are many kinds of meditation. There's concentration practices, there's insight practices, there's natural awareness practices. The devotional practice is remembering. It's remembering, in a sense, those beings who are it, and who are love, and connecting with those beings, that we begin to be pulled out of our own stuff. But the name is, Maharaji said, from the repetition of the name, everything is accomplished. Wow. I mean, that's a pretty powerful statement. I've been trying to believe it for 50 years. From the repetition of the name, everything is accomplished. Ram Nam Karne Se Sab Pura Ho Jata Hai. Everything is accomplished. What more do we need to know? So that kind of meditation mantra. So what happens is the mind starts to flow along with the sound of the names. And if there's music and melody, that makes it easier. But the names themselves have sound. And so as the mind is flowing along with those names, it's purified. The dust comes off the mirror of the heart. We have a lot of dust. So there's a lot of names that have to be repeated. But still, every repetition of the name is a seed. Every single repetition, whether you're angry, in a sweet space, angry, anxious, upset, fearful, every repetition of the name is a seed. How we plant it is somewhat, has some effect on how it works, but still, planting the seed of the name is another moment when we're not planting weeds of anger, shame, grief, fear, selfishness, etc. Because we're always planting seeds every second of every day of our whole lives and beyond. Karma is being created all the time, this moment. So when we do practices like this, on one hand it's positive, and on one hand it's also a moment when we're not doing harm to ourselves, so to speak, or others. So you just, you repeat the name as best you can. You can merge it with your breath or not, silently, out loud. They say when you do it out loud, it helps because you're hearing it as well as singing it or reciting it. That helps you pay more attention, but it's not necessary. But sometimes you find that sometimes quietly murmuring it helps you pay more attention and stay more present. And then really, all of this is in order to get the strength and the wisdom to treat other people the way we would like to be treated. If we could do that, it'd be a very different world. But it isn't, because we can't do that. Even those of us who are supposedly on the path, how many people do we treat the way we would like to be treated in a day? You know, so we don't even treat ourselves the way we would like to be treated. So there's a lot to do. And there's no hurry.
Thank you.
But there is a hurry. Yeah, and then that woman over there. Raise your hand. What, all of a sudden you have nothing to say?
That was such a beautiful question and such a meaningful answer. My question seems superficial, but
good.
I'm curious about how you handle your band. I was very impressed with the musicians.
With kid gloves.
Well, I figure most musicians have a certain persona that sometimes doesn't work well with other people. And I wondered, do you...
I beat them into submission.
Maybe so.
They're all overqualified. You know, this is really, they're all great musicians, and I'm just some hack harmonium player who can't find anything else to do. So it's a blessing to have
Do they try out
them.
for you, and then you talk to them about their spiritual life? Or?
Oh, God forbid.
Okay.
They just showed up and made themselves indispensable. I had nothing to do with it. And, you know, almost everybody on this stage, well, not at the moment, we've been playing together for a long time. It's just, it's become a very natural, wonderful flow. Everybody brings their best stuff to it, you know, and tries to merge into what we're doing together. Yeah.
Hi. So I had a hopefully simple question. I have a daughter. She's 4 years old. I love her very much. I know that you also have a daughter that you love very much. By the way, if anyone's looking for a guru, your local preschool, chock full. She teaches me more about myself than almost anyone. I'm curious just what you've loved about being a parent and what those relationships and attachments have taught you about life and how they've informed your practice.
It wasn't easy for me. I was on my way back to India for good, or for better or worse anyway, when my girlfriend got pregnant. And so that trip was over, and, you know, it was hard because now there was this mouth to feed that had to be fed every day. Jesus, every day. We'll talk about pressure. I never had a job, and I had to get all my shit together. It took a long time. Still working on it. So it really taught me a lot, you know, it really changed my life in that way. In a good way, because I was just floating around with no, and this was after being with Maharaji, you know, and I really wasn't at all grounded in any kind of reasonable way. I was just floating here and there. If I needed money, I painted somebody's house. You know, I mean, really, I had nothing going. It was just all, so boom, you know. And then there's this mouth to feed. And if you don't feed it, it makes a lot of noise. So you got to feed it. And it was, you know, it was really good, really good. It jump-started a lot of karma, that's for sure. It became being a parent, and it became vessel for working out a lot of karma. You know, so I didn't want to work. But you have to. You have to start learning how to do things you didn't want to do. That's not easy, but it's good for you. And you know, it's the love that comes from a kid, so sweet. You really have to step up to the plate. You know, you can't. You don't want to deny that love. You don't want to hurt that love. You don't want to do anything to change that. And, you know, so it's really good work on yourself. Hard, but good. I remember one time, I brought my daughter home. Me and my wife, we separated, and so my daughter would come into the city for the weekend with me, and so I drove her home, and we get home, and she said, "You know, Mom's really hard to talk to." And I said, "Yeah, I know. That's one of the reasons we're not together anymore. You know, relationships are hard business, really hard, you know." And she looks at me and says, "No, I don't know. I'm 10. Right. Yeah. Okay.
I guess just to piggyback off of that, I too have a small child and am navigating a relationship that is looking like it may not work out, and I'm wondering how you sort of...
Well, no, that's actually a relationship that's working out.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, fair. It is working out. But yeah, just sort of navigating, like I'm very much on the spiritual path and have been doing all the things you're supposed to do to heal, the therapies and practices.
Yeah.
And just having this person that's just not able to meet me there. And you keep reiterating this golden rule of treating each other the way that they want to be treated. And I beg for that constantly.
Yeah, but when you treat other people the way you want to be treated, that doesn't mean you're begging them to treat you the way you want to be treated.
Yeah, treat people the way they want to be treated is
Yeah.
good advice.
And then that's it. How they act is up to them. But you doing that frees you from needing them to be who you need them to be. Because you can't make another person into who you need them to be, because, believe it or not, they're already somebody. And they don't change. No one changes, really. We get lighter, but on the personality level, it kind of stays. It gets less vicious, maybe over time, but maybe.
Maybe.
Okay.
Hey,
Where are you? Oh, hi.
I just want to start off by saying I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I want to ask, are you married?
Yes, I am.
Okay. The reason why I asked that is because earlier you had mentioned that, sorry, I'm like nervous, I don't know why, but that's okay.
Don't ask me to marry you.
No, I'm not trying to hit on you.
Okay.
No, I want to ask because earlier you talked about how as like fame was, as you were moving towards, well, as you were experiencing fame and power, you didn't want to abuse that power, so you kind of like pulled away to find yourself and then come back to this. So I guess the question that I wanted to ask is, when you met the right person, how did you know that this was the right person? And I ask that because I feel like being on this spiritual path, I don't know how to say this, but there's like, you meet a lot of people. Sometimes the energetic connection that you have with a person could feel like twin flame or soulmate and blase blase, and later on you find out, oh hell no, that's not the right person. So sometimes it feels like the mind is tricking you into believing like this is something.
No, that's not your mind that's tricking you.
What?
It's located a little bit lower than that.
Well, how did you know? Like, how did you know it wasn't below but it was above?
Because it was wearing a plaid blanket.
Okay.
That's why. The only right person for you is God, your guru, yourself. Everybody else is just, what to say, part of life. Relationships are business. You give something, you get something. The problem is that when we meet somebody on a personality, emotional level, physical level, we have a lot of desires that we want to satisfy. We want to feel loved. We want to give love. We want to feel good about ourselves. We want the person to feel good about themselves and feel good about us. So, years ago, I was telling my Indian father, Mr. Tiwari, a great yogi, great disciple of Maharaji, all about this woman I was in love with, and he listened patiently for a long time. And when I was finished, he said, "My boy, relationships are business. Do your business, enjoy. But love?" He said, "Love lasts 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. It doesn't come and go." We mistake pleasure with love. We mistake things that feel good in a certain kind of way with love. And we have those experiences where we're attracted to somebody, we get all lit up, all juicy, and we love that. And the other person can love that too, and then you get juicy together and make more juice. Fantastic. But it comes and goes, doesn't it? It just doesn't last. And those experiences come and go because they're between personalities, between bodies, between egos. Love is our true nature. It's not something we get. We don't fall in it or fall out of it. It's already here. It's presence. It's being. It's God. It's Guru. It's self. It's what we're looking for in everything out there, and we'll never find it out there. So that's why relationships are so incredibly powerful teachings, because we start off thinking like, wow, this is, whoa, this is great, and then we watch the projections slide down the wall, And then you're left with a mortgage, car payments, That's when you start learning how to live. Because ultimately, you have to let another person be who they are. You can't change somebody like that, and that's not easy to do. Especially when, like in this woman's case, the person is not spiritual. Like we're really spiritual, right? We're about as spiritual as a rock, But okay, it's nice to feel that way.
Actually, since you brought up the word pleasure, that is a very interesting word.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, because I sometimes feel like in certain spaces that I have been in, pleasure and this idea of feeling good in your body is not a good thing. And I feel like sometimes we think that we're not supposed to feel pleasure or feel good in our body, and I feel like we bypass it. But I feel like...
What do you mean bypass what?
Like the sensation of pleasure, the sensation of desire, especially in yoga when we are told to desire is like the root of all bad things. And I feel like some people have this idea that allowing themselves to feel desire or pleasure is a bad thing.
We are just scared shitless.
Thank you.
Period. All those teachings come from people who are scared shitless. And one or two of those beams maybe found something real. That's why they're on the wall. The rest of us are just scared shitless. And we're scared of desire because it's powerful.
Yes.
But really, there's nothing wrong with it. The only thing wrong with it is that it doesn't work. It doesn't give what it promises to give, what we think it's going to give. We think it's going to give ultimate, eternal happiness, which it isn't going to give that. Nothing gives that because we already have that. But we're looking out there because we've been trained to look out there by life.
What if it's not pleasure that you are accessing because it's coming from outside of you? What if, so I do a lot of like movement and dance, and I'm actually leading a class for y'all on Sunday at 5:30, so make sure you're there. So like for me, like when my body is in motion is also a spiritual practice and is allowing me to pass through mind, body, thought, and all of that, and I am able to access other states of being. And when through movement, I'm able to access that. Like that feels good. That feels, maybe pleasure is not a word to use, but it feels pleasurable in my body, and it's not something that I'm getting outside. I'm something I'm accessing inside, because, like you said, it's already in there.
Your body is outside already. Your body is outside. Your being is, you could say, inside. Actually, it's everywhere, but your body is outside. And the pleasure comes from the senses, moving, releasing energy and releasing tension and opening up and feeling. Feeling is outside. Feeling is through the senses. Intuition, awareness is always here. So you can become possibly attached to that practice. So you only feel good when you're doing it. But that's not so different than any other kind of pleasure, is it? It feels good while it's happening. 2 minutes later, it's not. Or if you're really good, 3 minutes. Or if you're really good, then you don't identify with the sense inputs, and then you're always present. So if it helps you not get caught in some thoughts, but you're still caught in body awareness, physical awareness, and that's pleasurable, which is nothing wrong with it. It just doesn't last, does it? You don't feel it right now. So in order to feel it, you'd have to do it. So it comes and goes, and it's not negative unless you become dependent on that. Then it's just like any other drug. Then it becomes not beneficial. Because then you'll do everything, you rearrange your life so you can always be doing that. And there's a lot of other things you wouldn't be able to do. So it's an addiction to feeling. And feeling is external. There's the feeling, and then there's the one experiencing the feeling. But we're identified with that. We're glued to that out there. No problem, as long as you can let it come and go. But once you start to stop speaking to people so you don't get bothered, so you can keep doing that thing, then you notice the power of the addiction. We get addicted to or clinging to pleasant experiences in order to avoid unpleasant experiences, not wanting to feel bad. So we do what makes us feel good. And ultimately, there's nothing wrong with that other than the fact that it's not the best strategy in the long run. If you were aware of yourself in a certain kind of way, in the same way that you could be aware of breathing,
yes.
But the breath is external also. It's also a feeling. But with the breath, it's always there. Without it, you're not. So it's easy to use that as a tool.
Thank you for the clarity.
I'm glad somebody thought it was.
Hi. So it looks like there's a theme. I'm also a single parent and had a few single parents. Maybe that somehow brings one to a Krishna Das concert. But
it's not a requirement.
But what, as I sit here and hear you talk about your experiences as a single dad.
But, you know, I know what you mean by single parent, but really, there's two parents. There's always two parents, usually. These days, there's test tubes and other things, but ultimately, there's two parents. So it's not really being a single parent, but I know what you mean.
Right. My question is more around, like I was, you know, up until recently, I would, you know, would confuse you with Ram Dass, right? So I did not know much about you. I'm one of the grown men who cried when I listened to your songs, but I didn't really know you in a way that some other people might know. And here I am sitting and relating to you in a very, you know, sort of completely almost, right? So how do you explain orbits, right? Which is where I'm going with this. Is sometimes people get pulled in a certain way in certain directions to certain people. What is the explanation behind that?
Well, you sense something that pulls you, you know. When I was pulled to Ram Dass, it was really Maharaji I was feeling. At first, I took it to be, you know, Ram Dass, and he severely disabused me of that. And then I, you know, came to realize that it was what I was feeling was Maharaji's presence, and then I went with that. So it's a trusting yourself, trusting your inner feelings. You know, I would say intuition, but that kind of limits it. It feels it's an inner knowing, and you just follow it. Because if you don't follow it, then you kind of get like, you know, it's a lot of people don't pay much attention to their intuition, you know, and they just do what the world kind of dictates, and so your inner being kind of dies if you don't follow it. So, you know, when I told the story about the band asking me to come back, that was my dream. My whole life up to that point. That was my dream. I wanted to sing in a band, you know. And then when it was finally handed to me, I just said, nah, because I had run into Maharaji, the Ram Dass, and then nothing could compare with that. And now look, what am I doing? I'm singing in a band. And I can do it sitting down. I don't have to jump up all over the place. It'd probably be better if I did have to jump up, and I'd be in better shape. But so I got everything I wanted, and not only is it good for me, it's good for you. Isn't that crazy? Oh, stop. Weird, hey? I think the whole of so-called spiritual path is learning to trust yourself. Really. Learning to listen to yourself, really trust your inner feelings. And some things might not work out the way you wanted them to, but that's okay. Then you trust that feeling. And then it wasn't what we had, like an idea that something would be some way, and it turns out not to be. Okay, next. That's all. It's not that it was wrong. It was just that thing didn't turn out the way we wanted it to, but that's okay. You learn from that. But you learn to trust that inner sense of direction. Sometimes it makes life very difficult because your life is like going off like this, and your inner thing's like, wait a minute, I want to go this way. Sometimes that's really difficult to navigate. You have to see how that works out.
That's loud.
Where are you?
Over here.
Oh.
Thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
Also first saw you on YouTube, and you're great on YouTube. I have a two-part question because I know you love those. You talked about, well, on one of your tapes you talk about how you didn't know how to get what you wanted and what you needed. And I think you're talking about women. And then you were earlier in this talk, you're talking about kind of being hungry. So my first question is, like, what do you do with that hunger? And my second question is, the relationships are a business, that advice from your Indian father. I have experienced the truth of that statement. But at the same time, it feels very transactional, and it almost feels like a betrayal of, like, the love that we're supposed to be living, right? The idea that we're in these relationships and it is transactional, and I do need this, and isn't that like a deviation from the love that we're supposed to be centered in?
Let's go back to the first question. Would you repeat it again?
What do you do with the hunger?
You eat. But you don't expect never to be hungry again. You know, when you sit down for a meal, you eat, but there's no sense of like, I'm not hungry anymore, and I'll never be hungry again. But when you get laid, you think, yeah, this is forever. Or you have that kind of sexual relationship, this is forever, this is great. Really? No, it's just another meal. As long as you don't expect it to make you happy, you're okay. But everybody expects to make us happy. We all expect that. And it never does. For more than a couple of minutes, and then some afterglow. And that's it. And then business starts again. So that's just the way those things are. That's why it's business. Because you get something and you give something. And you meet in a certain place where you're giving and getting and getting and giving, and that's wonderful. But awareness is not there. You're lost. You're immersed in the pleasure of it, which is why we do it. We're hungry for that, because when we're immersed in that pleasure, we're kind of lifted out of our normal kind of states of mind. You know, fear, shame, grief, all that. We're kind of in an intermediate state, which also doesn't last. So it's not like there's anything wrong with it. And in fact, you can learn a lot if you pay attention. But we don't like to pay attention. We want to be asleep in that pleasure. And so we keep putting ourselves to sleep, whether it's watching TV or reels on Facebook for 6 hours. You know, we're putting ourselves to sleep in that pleasure, in that. And at some point, you begin to notice that, and then you have to deal with that. But the thing about when I started chanting with people, I was trying to find Maharaj's hand again. You know, I had lost that. I had let go of his hand. He had not let go of mine, but I didn't feel it. And so I saw that those hungers that I had were preventing me from finding his hand. And that was the most important thing at that point in my life, was to find his hand. And though they were preventing me from doing that, and there's nothing I could do about it. So it was kind of a very intense. Maybe not everybody feels that way all the time, but that's the way I was at that point. And you can't pretend you don't have those hungers. That's not going to work. You know, do I have to say what happens think about the Catholic Church and the priests and they don't talk about sex, they don't deal with sex, so they're out there fucking little girls and boys. It's impossible to not be affected by those hungers. So if we don't deal with them consciously, they deal with us. But to think there's something wrong with that, with desire, is not correct. It's human. We're in bodies. We have hungers. What's wrong with that? If we use those things to hurt ourselves and other people, well, that's not a lot of fun. But let's first try to get what we want, and then see if it's enough. It won't be, but we think it's going to be, don't we? We do. But until you learn yourself, there's some people who can be celibate and who are not secretly tortured. Their minds aren't affected. Their emotions aren't secretly affected, unconsciously affected. But that's not that common. Although there are some traditions that know how to work with that energy without actually physically getting involved with it. And that can be helpful, but that's very difficult. That's really beyond most of us. The real problem is we just don't know how to get it. I was getting laid, but it wasn't making me happy. I was too neurotic. And I wasn't able to give myself 100% to it. I wasn't able to enjoy it. My mind was eating it up, yeah, am I good enough? Is she happy? Am I making this? Over what? What happened? No. So as long as that's going on, the best thing is to kind of examine it and be honest with yourself about stuff and who you are and what you want. Do some counseling. Try to find why we're tied up in knots like that. Or we're going to go through our whole lives tied up in knots. And that's not a lot of fun. So, what was the second question?
Just the transactional nature of relationships are a business, right?
Yeah, well, that's the saving grace. When you notice, when you recognize that that's what it is.
It just feels so crude.
It is. It's horrible.
It's not love.
That's right. Exactly. It's not
so
love.
Here we're all sitting here trying to get back to love, and then we're like, yeah, relationships are a business.
You don't get back to love. Love already is. You either recognize it or you don't. And we don't. And so we do the other stuff. Because we got to do something. And we might as well try to have pleasure so we don't have pain. Because it's going to be one or the other, mostly. So we go for the pleasure, the pleasurable experiences, whether it's food, sex, TV, whatever else it is, sports, dancing, whatever. Oh yeah, right. You're going to see me on the dance floor, not this life. So yeah, no, but I hated him, by the way. When he said that, I didn't talk to him for a week. I wanted to kill him. He just crushed my relationship thing. I was so in love with this woman, and he just crushed it. I hated him because I knew he was right.
I mean, I guess the self-judgment comes up in terms of well, I should be, I should be able to just accept people the way that they are, and I love this person, right? But
you don't love that person when they don't wash the dishes.
I need all these things, right? I need them to be spiritual, et cetera, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all the time you're not. Everything you're not, you want them to be. That ain't gonna work. And you love them when they behave the way you want them to. But they go out and screw the mailman, that ain't going to make you happy. Or they don't do the dishes, or on our side of the field, piss all over the floor. I'm not going to like that. So, come on. That's why it's not love. When it's love, everybody's in it all the time. Because everybody is it. All these little bubbles of personality pop, and you see love everywhere. That's love.
Aren't you really saying like we can't, or I guess you're saying it's super difficult or nearly impossible to bring love to a relationship then?
No, not at all. If you don't need that person to be who you want them to be, if you let them be who they are and are happy with that, and you don't wish they didn't steal the covers every night, when you really let somebody be who they are, that's love. That's the beginning of accepting somebody as they are and not needing them to be a certain way to please you or to make you feel a certain way. Right? And then you're free from that. And then real friendship, real connection can come from that because you're not making that person behave the way you need them to. And so that frees them up to feel better about themselves because you're not judging them all the time. And same for you. If they let you be the same schmuck that you always will be, you'll be happy. But if they try to change you, you're not going to be happy. It's not going to work. But if you let somebody be themselves, and if you're both working on letting you be each other, then you might meet in a real place, a real connection. You could say a soul connection or a real connection. But it has nothing to do with personality or expectations. We have a lot of expectations for our relationships. We are going to be, we're soulmates. This is forever. Bullshit. That's the biggest bullshit I ever heard in my life. And I hear it all the time from people. I found my soulmate. And then 3 weeks later, we're getting divorced. It's okay. That's the way it is. If you don't deal with reality, it deals with you. So it's better to deal with it and try to find something real, which exists, by the way, everywhere, all the time. But it's not easy. When we were in India with Ram Dass, his second time, our first time, he hated us Westerners because we were there with Maharaji, and it's only because he only talked about Maharaji, even though Maharaji instructed him when he went back, don't talk about me. Very clear, don't talk about me. All he did was talk about him, 24/7, 365. But he never said his name or where to find him, so he kind of justified it there. But we got there. And then he shows up, and we owned Maharaji. He couldn't have him all to himself. He was pissed. So one time Maharaji said to him, Ram Dass, you're a saint. You shouldn't touch money. So Ram Dass gave all his money to this guy to be his bag man, buy him tickets and food, whatever. And then he looks at Ram Dass and says, Ram Dass, you shouldn't drive. Give the keys to him. That was me. I got the keys to the car. I got my first name, my first spiritual name, Driver. For about 6 months. Driver. That was my name. So one day, Ram Dass wakes up in Nainital, in the town we were staying at the time, going to the temple every day, and all the Westerners had left. He got up late, and all of us had gone. I drove the car, like 20 people in the car. Other people took the bus. And he gets up, and he has no money. He can't buy a ticket on the bus. So he walked to the temple over the mountains. It took about 3.5 hours, and he was pissed as shit. He was so angry. And he walks into the temple, and the guy he hated the most in the group, we were being fed on the other side of the courtyard. Maharaji had us sitting on the other side. He was there sitting watching us, and we were being fed. So Ram Dass walks into the temple, and this guy stands up, and he offers Ram Dass a plate of food, right? And Ram Dass takes the food and he throws it in the guy's face. Maharaji's sitting right there. Maharaji goes, Ram Dass, what's the matter? Something wrong? Come here. So Ram Dass goes and he sits in front of Maharaji. Maharaji says, what's the matter? Ram Dass said, I can't stand impurity in other people and in myself. So Maharaji looks up and down a couple of times, Ram Dass said, and he says, I don't see any impurity. That's right. That's the whole thing. Okay, we could stop there. An enlightened being doesn't see. I mean, they know, but they don't see you as impure. They see God, because that's what they've become. Everything's the same. So Maharaji says, I don't see any impurity. And Ram Dass starts to cry. So then Maharaji says, Ram Dass, love everyone and tell the truth. So Ram Dass says, the truth is, I don't love everyone. 2 points for him, right? Maharaji leans in closer, nose to nose, eye to eye, and says, Ram Dass, love everyone and tell the truth. And that was the fall of 1971. It took him close to 50 years. But by the end of his life, Ram Dass was really immersed in that love, and everyone was in it with him. It was quite extraordinary. But what he had to go through to get to that was so horrific and painful. I mean, he had a catastrophic stroke. He's in constant pain. He had neuropathy from diabetes. He had a hip replacement, I think, or a knee replacement, torn shoulder rotator cuffs. He couldn't turn himself. Everything had to be done for him. And he never complained. Never. And every month or two, he'd almost die from a urinary tract infection that broke out into the blood. They have to take him to the hospital and find the right antibiotic. But he never complained. He developed real surrender, where he really, and at first, Ram Dass thought, he believed that Maharaji had given him the stroke. And he said it was fierce grace. But when he went back to India, the only time after the stroke, Siddhima looked at him right away and said, Ram Dass, Maharaji didn't give you the stroke. He'd never do something like that. What he gives you, the stroke is your karma, he said. She said, what he gives you is the grace to overcome the negative aspects of the stroke. And that's what he did. He truly embraced the situation. Siddhima also told him that if he learned this one particular prayer to Hanuman, he would walk again. But he never learned it. He couldn't motivate himself to learn it, partially because of his the effects of the stroke, but also because he couldn't figure out why he would do that. Right? He rather surrendered to the situation as it was, as it is. And he used to say to me, the stroke saved my life. And he meant it. Now, other people, the same thing can happen to someone else and their whole life is destroyed by it. They get angry, depressed, hurt people, and just their lives are over, essentially. But to see Ram Dass blossom and bloom and grow and into that space was so extraordinary. He could still be a son of a bitch once in a while, but very rarely, very rarely. I mean, it was extraordinary to be around in those last 20 years. So that's it for today, and we'll see you later.